on, and as you just heard, welcome to SAFE's presentation tonight on our new and very exciting Sustainability and Resiliency Department. We are very happy to have this new department in Salem. It came almost as a surprise to some of us who were following environmental stuff and who are regular attendees at the CERC, Sustainability, Energy, and Resiliency Committee meetings. So we were delighted to see this happen when the City Council approved it. I'm Pat Gazemba. I'm the co-chair of SAFE. Cindy Keegan co-chairs SAFE with me. She's not able to be here tonight, but we are really happy all of you are here. We hope that in the chat function that you will introduce yourself. If you belong to other organizations that are, especially if they're environmental organizations, we'd love to hear about your participation in those other groups. I want to do a special shout out and welcome to Councillor Meg Riccardi. Councillor Riccardi also is the liaison from the City Council to the Sustainability, Energy, and Resiliency Committee, and she's a very valuable member. I also want to welcome and give a shout out to two newly elected City Councilors, Jeff Cohen and Alice Merkel. Congratulations, and we look forward to working with you in the future. We are very happy to have two wonderful environmentalists like yourselves join us in our environmental struggles and to be working within the city's elected structure. We're going to ask all of you to stay on mute during tonight's meeting, and we are, as I said earlier, we're going to ask you if you have questions regarding anything that members of the Sustainability and Resiliency Department share with us tonight. Please put your questions in the chat and we will read the questions for the presenters. You know this is being recorded. We will be posting the recording of this presentation on the SAFE YouTube channel, and we keep recordings of all of our meetings on that SAFE YouTube channel. Can you go to the next slide? Next slide. So one other thing we'd like you to share with us in the chat, if you will, is what topics you would like to have included in future SAFE events. The SAFE board thinks up the topics for these meetings and we're pretty nimble. We look at what's happening in Salem and try to adjust our offerings each month. The first Thursday of every month to what we think is on environmentalists' minds right now. So I'm going to turn the program over now to Stacy Kilb. Stacy is the engagement coordinator with the Sustainability, Energy, and Resiliency Committee. With the department. So Stacy will be, we hope that some of you watching this presentation tonight, if you are in a neighborhood association or in another environmental group and you would like to have Stacy come and do a presentation for you, for your neighborhood group on issues that are of concern to you, we will ask you to get in touch with Stacy. Okay, thanks a lot. And Stacy, welcome. Stacy was a board member of SAFE many years ago, and we are delighted that she is back working in city government now. So Stacy, please tell us all about the new department.
There's my unmute. Sorry. Slideshow there. All right, so can everybody see the screen here? Oh, and hear me? Did I lose people? What's going on?
Yep.
Yes, we
Oh,
can see it.
okay, excellent. Thank you. There might be a bit of a lag there. So yeah, we are the Sustainability and Resiliency Department. We're newly formed this fiscal year. So basically July 1st, we came into being. It was Jenna is the director of the department and still of capital projects. Esmeralda is the department manager. I am the sustainability engagement coordinator. We have two others, Vanessa Pineda, um, she is the energy manager, and Daphne Purrier is our administrative assistant. So together we are working. We're on the third floor at 98 Washington Street. So that's typically where you can find us, absent site visits and other things. I don't know, Jenna, did you want to say anything about yourself? And Vanessa, did you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, I'll let Vanessa go first. Just to say hi.
Hello, everyone. I am Vanessa. I am a resident in Salem. About 6 years ago, I came here. I am originally from Colombia. My background is in environmental engineering, and I am doing a master's degree in city planning at BU. This is my first week in the Sustainability and Resilience Department, so I'm very happy to be here, and thank you so much for inviting me.
So yeah, Vanessa just started this week, and Daphne just recently started. She's part-time, so but hopefully you'll all get to meet her also. And then we have one more position that we have an advertisement for. If you know anybody, it's for lead outreach coordinator. You know, on the website it shows that the deadline has passed, but you still can get resumes after the deadline. So somebody says they can't hear anyone.
Oh, I can hear you okay.
Okay, so so yeah, that's the department as we have now. And so I'm director of capital sustainability resiliency. I had done a lot of work on capital, so a lot of the capital projects, including the capital plan, but I've also been doing a lot of work on sustainability. And then as this sort of became an actual department, the functions of sustainability, we've been doing a lot of different things, staff in planning, engineering primarily, but then some in traffic and parking and elsewhere in the city for many years. And then some of these functions have consolidated. Traffic and parking will still be working on mobility issues. We will, coordinate with them and then, add to it, such as EV chargers and transitioning a fleet. Engineering still works on a lot of the projects related to roads and bike lanes, and then planning still has quite a bit of role. So as well as all the other departments, obviously. So that's where we're still forming our department, in that not only just staff, but sort of developing who and what we're going to be. We sort of put together a mission, as Pat said, this sort of accelerated at the end of last year. And so our mission is oversee sustainability, energy, and resiliency efforts within the municipal government, either directly managing programs or projects or coordinated with other departments. So not only will we have direct projects, but our goal is to really work with every department to become more sustainable. So that could be the school department, or it could be the assessors. And the assessors may be things such as simple as just going to recycled paper, or, going to, reducing their energy use of their computers. And align, and in many cases exceed, the state of Massachusetts goal of carbon neutrality. We want to do a lot of engagement and support of Salem residents. So you notice Stacy and Esmeralda, both a big focus on engagement. In addition, the new lead outreach position, which is a part-time position, will also be involved quite a bit with engagement. So really helping residents and businesses in Salem know what kind of resources are out there for them to become more renewable. And our department savings, the activities of sustainability staff, like I said, they've been in different departments over the years, have on average saved over $500,000 annually for the city and utility costs, brought in over $250,000 in revenue from the renewable energy credits and other incentives big chunk of that is behind me. That's the solar panels at Witchcraft, and then there's another set at Bentley. But we also get a lot of money from National Grid for incentives. We believe that projected annual increase in savings are offsets. Year one, probably 5% would be in 90 to 100,000 in additional savings for the city municipal budget. Power Choice brings in annual savings of around, on average, 600,000 to residents and businesses 2016. So, you know, we did some estimates. If you say, if we're able to work with citizens and businesses, and the city spends over 19 million just on electricity, not gas, alone annually, or oil, 10% electricity savings over the next would generate 1.9 million annually, or per capita $40 a year. So you just think about that, you know, if we can get sort of set goals for the community, you know, everybody could save energy and money by us, you know, really working with everybody. And just some recent projects. We have the installation of 12 new electric vehicle charging stations. You see these here are at Bertram Fieldhouse and the Athletic Center. Stacy led up a lot of those. There's also ones at Forest River, Salerno, and Bentley. And we placement of a lot of old kitchen appliances to new energy efficient ones, and also at the police station. We got 2 hybrid vehicles for the police, all their sort of patrol fleet, they're transitioning to hybrid. You know, there's some vehicles that they can't transition as easily, but they're slowly transitioning, and they've not only found that it saves fuel and saved them a lot of money, but it also saves them downtime. So they have less time fueling, which means less time that the patrol officer is not doing the patrolling. And then we have a lot of solar, smaller ones at Bertram and Forest River, and a lot of different projects like Willows and others where we're working toward restoring native habitats, using more green infrastructure, using more sustainable methods in our construction. And we oversee a lot of different other projects, particularly me, but also working opportunities such as, you know, fire station paving, Pioneer Village, Bentley boilers, Witchcraft Heights got a new trailer. There's a large school master plan going on, Palmer Cove Common. So, and almost any project has an opportunity to be more sustainable. Obviously your building projects are where you can kind of get that energy and sustainability, but I think almost any project you can see an opportunity. For example, we improved the drainage when we did the fire station paving and 80 access, we improved drainage at that site, even though that was overall a small project. And in general, ongoing activities, we manage the MEI energy tracking system, and that's a system that the state uses. It's an online system that tracks energy usage, and it for electricity and gas accounts, and we're able to sort of set baselines and look at our energy use over the years. It's quite a bit to manage it because you have to. A lot of it is automatic from National Grid, but there's a lot of entering for oil data and vehicle data. And then every time we have a new building, and then there's issues and things like that. So, but at some point we would like to be able to use that. And one of Vanessa's job will be to be really looking at it and understanding where we see issues. For example, we saw high energy use at Bates last year per square foot. And we're trying to understand, is this metered data? Is there something wrong? Or is there something particular that went on at Bates that would make it more, you know, jump up in its per square footage? We also manage utility revenue incentive programs for the city. Staff the Sustainability, Energy, and Resiliency Committee. Track emissions, and this is going to be increasingly important as part of Resilient Together, and our sort of goals for clean energy is to track those emissions for not only the city, but also for the community in general. And then we participate in larger regional energy and sustainability related committees. And I know Esmeralda, who unfortunately couldn't be here tonight because she got quite sick, but I know most of you have met her. You know, she's been participating in the building electrification work. And so FY 2022 goals. So we want to implement Resilient Together. Resilient Together has 30 proposed actions relate just to outreach and education. So thus you see the staff in outreach and education. I just want to give a shout out that Stacy, Esmeralda, and Vanessa are all bilingual. I am not, but they are all. So I think that will really help in our engagement efforts to be able to provide bilingual engagement. We want to work with the planning department on policy and ordinance changes. So you will see that the green building ordinance was filed, went to committee. That's on the municipal side. There will be another one filed for private development. And so we hope to be able to work, and work with every department to save energy through operational changes just in the first year. We're working on initiating a large comprehensive energy project, which would really be the biggest chance for the city to reduce its energy use and potentially put on more solar. Hopefully goal to save to 40% or more reduction in energy. And that primarily is the schools, but it would also affect fire, police, etc. And then you can see some other things. We want to install new solar on municipal properties. Conduct an analysis of the vehicle fleet. We're working with National Grid on this, and they're going to tell us sort of how do we get to a zero emissions fleet, or as close as we can with the technology. Some of the heavy duty vehicles are harder, but we can certainly, there's a pathway there. And continue to lead and support the other projects, signature parks and other departments' capital purchases and projects to ensure that they are as sustainable and resilient as they can be. So Stacy, did you want to take over here, or did you want to?
Yeah, I could take over here if you want. It's some of it's a little bit slightly repetitive. So Jenna mentioned Resilient Together. We teamed up with Beverly to create a climate action plan with 7 different sort of areas and about 71 different actionable items we could do across them. So implementing that in the community solutions with Beverly would target small businesses and new construction and kind of promoting mass save and different national grid incentives for energy efficiency. Jenna mentioned power choice. When the city sort of bargains on behalf of residents, we can get a better rate. So our new contract is January of this upcoming year. Property assessed clean energy program, the PACE program through the state, not to be confused with their PACE education program. The state loves their acronyms. It's an option for commercial property owners and multifamily owners to finance their energy efficiency or renewable energy upgrades. So those are basically some community-based programs that we're doing. And on the
I did want to jump in on the Salem Power Choice. You'll see a news link on that from the mayor's office on that, the new contract and what it's going to save. So we're at around, I think, 11 cents, and that includes higher amounts of renewable energy, local renewable energy. National Grid's coming in at 14 for the winter rate. So that's a substantial savings and more renewable energy.
Yeah, so that's both posted on the CERC website, within the city website, and also on the CERC Facebook page. So you can find that either there, and I would imagine it went out to probably Salem News too? Yep. Okay. So green communities is what we're part of. That's why we use the Mass Energy Insight, that the tracking of everything, the energy use and emissions and all that. And we can get up to $100,000 annually for energy efficiency and staff training, which is where we got the funds for things like those police vehicles and the appliance upgrades in fiscal year 21. So we're going to apply for the fiscal year of this fiscal year, I guess, fiscal year 22, we'll probably get the funding for what else we're going to do. The MVP, Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Program, it's just a database. Jenna, I don't know a whole lot about that one. Did you want to add anything?
It's a grant program, annually that we participate in. We, so we, I'm not sure if we got awarded last year. I don't think we did, but we hope to next year. So these are, we did get awarded similar, the CZM program has similar resiliency grants.
Yep.
And then we already talked about the National Grid.
Yeah, we did. So as much as possible, their program helps us transition the fleet. Like, what can we do? What makes sense? What doesn't? So that would be our goal, to be fully electric within the next 9 years. So the projects that we have going on right now, we have, ooh, that's a very nice picture of the new pool. We got a $50,000 MAPC grant to conduct a community engagement and training program on building energy retrofits. So that'll be ongoing for about the next year. So kind of part of it on the community and part of it kind of training developers. The brand new pool, they actually had to fill it in order for the lining to cure, I guess, is the Forest River Outdoor Recreation and Nature Center. It will be beautiful. We're hoping for a sort of soft opening of it in December, about mid-December on a weekend. I'm still working out the details on that, but it would be, just kind of get to know you, department meet and greet as well. Some smaller projects, and we also advise any other projects that are going on in the city about aspects of sustainability and resiliency that they can incorporate.
I wanted to just, you guys get that picture has not been released yet. So you get that picture of the pool just today taken.
Yep.
Cool. So I'll talk about the Point Neighborhood Climate Change Deep Dive Model. Since Esmeralda's not here, she was going to talk about it more. We're really excited about this project. It's taking a lot of the things that many of you have seen from its whole analyses all the way back 2014. We did that climate change plan, really taking a lot of that information and then going in a deep dive. So not only most of the time modeling, they do at a larger level. This will really deep dive that model and give you much more fine-tuned results for the point area. In addition, we're adding in rain and drainage. So it won't just be a storm surge, but it will also be what's happening with the systems, the drainage systems, the rain water as it comes down. And so it approaches not only that deep dive model to see what's going to happen. We know it's a very high risk area, but also looking at alternatives and solutions for the area to adapt and mitigate to these risks. And then an intensive multilingual outreach and education engagement campaign. This is probably one of the most vulnerable areas in the city. Also has a lot of educational resources, health resources, economic, housing, low income. So it's a critical area and we're not really sure what the solutions are. So that's part of this and what the right solution is. So that's part of this process is to figure out what kind of solutions are on the table and to get engagement onto how do we move forward with those solutions, the best ones. And then, if this methodology works, or even it works, but we want to, adapt it in the future, we would move this methodology to other neighborhoods. Other ones we've considered is Collins Cove, you have the Derby, you have the Willows, you have the South River, North River. Probably less of a concern is the Forest River from a sort of impact to number of people, but that is another area. And then you do have around the Kernwood area. So there's sort of areas where you can kind of do a deep dive based on the water resources that are sort of around it and the rivers coming in.
All right.
And Stacy, you want to talk about the engagement?
Yep, sure. So basically, as the title says, we're looking into sort of equitable engagement, engaging as many people as we can, meeting them where they're at. Kind of environmental justice is a big part of what we do. It's sort of woven through this. So I sort of took some elements from the Resilient Together plan. And so these are some things that we sort of could do in the future, like promoting water conservation, working with Salem Sound Coast Watch on that, raising awareness about the EVs and, different ways of getting around town, flood management. Part of the MAPC grant is the, training for energy efficiency buildings and things like that. Educating businesses and homeowners on some of their options. And also working with different schools to do that as well. So some of the projects that I've been working on right now, Vanessa and I have kind of been working on the MEI and the fiscal year 21 report together that we need to submit for green communities so we can get that grant next time around. I've also been the point person on developing interpretive signs. So what you see here is a section of one. It's going to go up at Bertram Field, hopefully next week. There's a sustainability sign and then 3 signs on the history. And I'm working on a series of signs for Forest River Park, kind of outlining both the history and the geology of the area and also climate change and what we're doing there to to kind of mitigate it. Jenna has this, I should have put it in here. She has this fabulous picture of the pool, the old pool, and it's just completely flooded, which is part of the reason it got replaced. So I'll be working on signs, kind of going over what we do on that. And of course, doing outreach at events. I was at Elevate in September. I was at the Salem Common. I've been to the farmers market. So just sort of getting the word out there about our department and what we can do, and promoting Mass Save, and the also the MA Urban Canopy, the free trees that you can get if you live in certain heat island areas of the city. So if you go to MA Urban Canopy, I believe it's .org, you can put in your address and see if you're eligible for a free tree. So that's pretty much what I've been working on right now. And I believe that is it for the presentation. All of our contact info is here. You can also find it on both the CERC website and the brand new sustainability website on within the Salem website. So we appreciate you all joining us. And Jenna, did you have anything else to add, or did we want to?
No, I just wanted to thank everybody and many of the people, and congratulate the new counselors, and also those who have got reelected, and thanks SAFE for all their support. And just, we're here, we're still figuring this out. We're just hiring our staff, and many of these different ideas, but particularly I think on engagement, and outreach, ways that we can, the best ways that we can reach people and help them. Obviously, if it's a business or homeowner, it's ultimately there's something they're going to need to do, but how do we help them walk through the process? What tools, how do we get to people and help them with the resources out there? So we're, open to your ideas as we evolve this department and grow it and develop it. Thank you.
All righty, I will stop sharing.
Thanks a lot, Stacy and Jenna. That's great. We're really, really happy to hear about all this exciting work that you're doing. One of the questions that came up is from Darlene Millis, who asks, can you talk about the new Mass Works projects?
So I can't speak to too much of it because I didn't write the grant. It just started, but I do know it's dealing with many different intersections in the point, particularly on Congress Street, to sort of, when you develop a more integrated, complete street that supports multiple modes, accessibility, bikes, walking, and more tree canopy, et cetera, and better drainage, the hardest parts are the intersections. So it's sort of setting up the intersections so that when you do come back and do the whole street, it's basically, you're just doing the straightaways. So those intersections are going to be done to support many of those elements that I just talked about. We're also going to try to work with them as, we get more data on this Point Neighborhood project about how we, is there an opportunity to improve the drainage or resiliency of that within that project? Obviously trees, but I think there's also, like I said, the drainage in the point is not, it's not just the storms coming in, it's the drainage leaving. So this might be an opportunity for us to think about how it drains. So within that project, but that's what I know. I know Jay Carroll in engineering is a good resource since he wrote the grant. So he knows the most about the project.
It's great. I encourage others of you to put questions into the chat so that we can probe these minds right now. One of the first things I'd like to make a comment and then ask you about how you're going to do this. One is, I think it's great that the first deep dive that you're doing around an area of the city is in the Point neighborhood. We know that it's one of the most challenged neighborhoods geographically, being just above sea level. So it's great that you're going there and working with those folks. I wanted to ask you too about another facet of the presentation that Stacy presented, which was on the community engagement and training program on building energy retrofits. How do you intend to roll that out to parts of the city? I wonder if you're thinking about approaching that by neighborhoods or what your approach is going to be.
Yeah, I'm honestly not sure yet. I don't know if Jenny can speak to that. I'm still kind of writing the request for proposals on it, and it's kind of a little bit more open. So once we get those proposals, it's kind of up to the people who are writing them to sort of tell us how they would do it. So we're sort of,
And-
it's more open than a request for qualifications. So
Where this one where this is the first step. It's sort of focused more on developer property owner training for zero net energy sustainability, and then staff, city staff and commission training. And that could be planning, zoning, historic, etc. on sort of ongoing training. That doesn't mean that these resources won't be available to the public too. This is sort of the first level, trying to get people knowledgeable about these items, and then, you know, putting together resources for people to sort of go get their own training. There's a lot of training out there, but it's like, what is the best training? What is, you know, sort of, so it's sort of like zero net energy building 101, right? But kind of geared to developers or commission members first. I think, you know, the next phase, a more broad-based public one, might be the next phase. But I think the, you know, from the Beverly, this is with Beverly also, and the mayor's direction and working with Tom Daniel and planning, is that we really need to kind of get the developers and property owners kind of aligned on this, and also staff, which is kind of critical, because if people or commissions, if they're reviewing proposals, and they can review it with now some training behind zero net energy and sustainability. So, so as Stacy said, though, we're trying to ask those who are experts in training to sort of tell us what they think the best way to approach this is. But we're definitely going to have resources that, you know, once the training is over, we still have the resources to be able to use, like a video of the training or a webinar, you know, a list of training.
Great. I note also in following up on this, Jeff Cohen has noted in the chat, we're discussing at CERC about education, hoping education and outreach to encourage lower income residents and especially renters to do mass save assessments, as most tenants pay utilities and are eligible for those mass save assessments. Do you want to add anything to that, Jeff? David could ask you to unmute yourself. Go ahead, Jeff.
Oh, no, I just wanted to bring it up in the chat. It's something that Jenna, Esmeralda, Stacy, and the rest of CERC have discussed.
Oh, okay. Okay, great, great.
Yeah, I think that is important. And, you know, once again, ideas of how do we best, I think one group that we talked to during Resilient Together was talking about, you know, maybe having like in an apartment building, you know, sometimes they have like a common area, and going to that common area, maybe doing presentation just for that apartment complex about what they can do. So really kind of, you know, going to where they are and, you know, gearing it. I mean, a lot of what they can do, sometimes they have mechanical, electrical, but it might be lighting, it might be better appliances, things like that. So really working to get more of our renters these opportunities that are out there.
Mhm. Yeah, that's really critical.
Pat, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure thing.
I don't know if I'm not supposed to unmute, or I don't know how it's working. That was an excellent presentation. I came in halfway through. I'm so sorry, but the second half was fantastic. So I'm deep into all this stuff and trying to pay attention, and so much of that was new to me. How do we get this information out? Like we're you know, audience of everyone's engaged, and probably many of us, this is new stuff. And I just wonder, yeah, that whole outreach and that whole, like, how do we let people know what's going on and what's available? And it's such a struggle. I feel in the groups I work with too, it's such a struggle to get that word out. But I'm in a 3-building apartment complex with probably 50 apartments, and it's ripe for something. I'll help you do something for a group like this. Like, I just feel like, I don't know. I'm willing to help. I'll say that.
That's great. And I think we've got to mention Stacy has a list of people that she's developing as she goes to events, of people that would like to sign up to know more, kind of be on newsletter, or would they like to volunteer, or is there particular areas of interest, to say they're interested in more in the sort of landscape, things versus energy efficiency. Maybe after this, Stacy, you can send the slides and then, send them the contact form you have link, and then they can sign up if they want to for more information.
That would actually be good. Yeah. So yeah, I can. So my email is just skilb@salem.com. And it's basically just a form you'd fill out, and you can put in, your name, your contact, and what level of interest and what areas of interest you want. So if anybody would like to email me, I can email you that. It's actually, the way I put it at events is that the mayor is basically trying to build a climate corps, kind of like the Army Corps of Engineers. That was her words for it, a climate corps of engaged citizens who are willing to move forward on these projects, or willing to help educate others, can maybe volunteer tabling at events when we can't, or if you do something with you do some sort of sustainability or resiliency project, would you be willing to have it be a stop on our Salem sustainability tour, which we would hope to launch eventually? So things like that. So definitely shoot me an email, or I don't know if, we can also post it on the SAFE, and I should actually post it on the SAFE and the CERC Facebook pages as well, and on the CERC and the Sustainability Department website. So check any of those places. I will write myself a note to do that when I'm in the office tomorrow.
And I just want to thank you, Jim. I mean, I agree. It's like, how do you get it out there? And some of this stuff I think is, if you can get out there, it's self-explanatory, but some of these things are very complicated. So some of the programs for solar, it's quite complicated, to navigate a lot of those programs. And the Power Choice, Salem Power Choice, is very confusing for most people. That's probably the thing we get the most calls on, which is not a ton, but people just don't, it's confusing, and they don't understand, which takes me a while, the whole difference between supply and national grid, distribution, and how the bill breaks down. And, it's important, I think, helping them understand. Many of them don't realize that, when their bill has gone up, that it's the energy use that's gone up. And that's the biggest, one of the biggest messages is, a lot of times people think it's the rate, but it's actually their use that has gone up. And so why did your use go up? Maybe a good reason, like your teenage son moved home or whatever. And so they're using more showers or whatever. It's fine. You know why, but there may be reasons why your use is shooting up and you have no idea why. And, it could be that your air conditioning is on all the time and you used to have it set back, but now it doesn't. So things like that. So.
And can I just maybe add, on the flip side, there are many, many, many people who, if they knew about the program and they knew that it would be this incremental increase, they would do it, and they don't know about it, because the choices are confusing. And some people think, we're already 100% renewable in Salem or something. It is confusing. It's really confusing. And there are choices, and making it clear to people, who have low energy bills, many in complexes, it's fairly low. A $31 monthly bill going to $50, I'll take it. Many people would do that. They just don't know it, I think.
I think one of the ways that we can get the word out, and I think of you, Jim, here, because you're such an activist with 350 North Shore, is that, arranging for presentations by Stacy and the department for groups like 350. Also, League of Women Voters is on here, and I know, of course, CERC is on here, but any of those groups that any of you on this call belong to, Stacy and the department, I think, are open to presenting to your groups. And when you get environmentalists like ourselves involved, I think you can look to our trying to help spread the word through our resources. So that's great. Jeff Cohen also mentioned about air source heat pumps. And I know that one of the ways that many of us got to meet Esmeralda Bisono was when she came on as a solar coach and a coach around air source heat pumps. We got to see much of the work and have her coach us through different parts of that. So I think your department is spreading its wings, and we're beginning to see more of it. And if throughout the groups that are represented here, I see Wendy Miggs from Historic Derby Street Neighborhood as well. So we hope that neighborhood groups will invite the sustainability and resiliency department to come and present about what opportunities are available. And Jenna, when you said might move from the Point neighborhood on to thinking about other neighborhoods that are bordering the ocean and that have different challenges in terms of sea level rise, et cetera. Collins Cove, groups like that, they definitely need to be made aware of what they can access.
Yeah, and I think, there is, the flooding issue is sort of, there's the sustainability, which is, being more efficient and more sustainable for sustainable Earth. Resiliency is a little bit more, how do you be more resilient? And, so we're kind of tackling both. And each has its challenges, but I think resiliency is a little, it's a little daunting in that, some of these things, and that's why I say the point, how we look at this, what are the solutions that you can do? And many of the solutions, there are some that you can support homeowners or property owners or residents of places to be able to be more resilient. But some of the things are going to be a larger project that a city or state has to take on, because it's really, trying to protect a larger neighborhood where one homeowner can't really do much, or one resident. But I think one of the things we recognize is that, and we'll be panning this out with our analysis with the point, is that there are some soft solutions, and we've heard of other places in the country where, the solutions aren't necessarily just hard infrastructure or green infrastructure. It may be that you set up a community center where everybody knows where it is, and you do more outreach so that when there is a storm, people know where to go to be safe. You help them with emergency packets. You help them with small projects in their house. Sometimes small things in your own home or property can make a big difference. As we saw with basement apartments and things like that, really sort of understanding where the highest risks are and getting those people to safe situations in an emergency. So, so some of the solutions may be along more of a social line, really supporting the social network to be able to be resilient, not necessarily an infrastructure, though those might be, thought of. Infrastructure take a long time, and, many times take a long time and are expensive typically. So.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I agree with how this goes, and we'll learn from this point in the point. And then, if it goes well enough, then, and even if we have to adapt it, it'll be interesting to see. And it will be, that's the thing, it's gonna be different in every single neighborhood, because not only is everything neighborhood different and the risks different, but what they feel like is the best way to approach it is going to be different, and how to address the problem. It's very dynamic, as you can imagine.
I have another question here in the chat. Jamie Hannah, curious if there are current projects for managing invasive plant species. I'm in the Bridge Street Neck neighborhood, and we have Japanese knotweed all over the place. Any talk about managing for invasive species?
I think that's actually a really important question. And I think, as we sort of grow, and like I said, we work with a lot of other departments, obviously recycling and engineering, and then, the tree department and parks. I think that is a good point. And, I see it a lot because I work on the Forest River project and I'm down at Forest River all the time. And, it's a lot of Norway maple there, which are invasive tree that basically kill all the other trees around them. And then they grow to about 40, 50. And then you can go down there and trees are getting knocked down. And, our ash is dying off because of ash borer. Our evergreens have that thing. And, we have a lot of these invasive, the Phragmites, the purple loosestrife. There's a lot of species. And I think that's an important question. And I think that's something, as we look into sort of resilience and, other things for many of our projects, we're talking about how can we address invasive species as part of the project. And then do we, as part of our homeowner education and as part of our education efforts, do we work on a packet? We're hoping it's like, we come somewhere and we have, hey, here's, you want more about recycling? You want more about solar? You want more about how to, invasive species or native plantings? We can kind of be the conduit to provide that information. But I definitely think that's one of the most critical issues, particularly because I feel our native species are at such, high stress in this environment. That the invasive species are just adding additional stress to many of our natural areas. And I think one of the things with the Forest River Outdoor Education Center, one of the goals was to provide a place where people, particularly younger people, but all people, can kind of learn about nature more and provide natural education, nature-based education. So hopefully that's an opportunity that people will take and use to sort of promote more nature-based education, which, hopefully then leads to more people understanding, what are the invasive species, things like that.
There was a really wonderful article in the New York Times last week, I think, about the restoration of different environments in the city and how much native wildlife and insects and how much they're seeing just a tremendous increase in the numbers of native species that have come back because of those restoration projects. So that was pretty exciting to see. But I had another question. Are you guys, do you have anything to do with sort of trash recycling and composting? And when we redo the trash, our next trash contract, how that will work? And I've been having conversations with people lately. We're all frustrated that we can't get more people to compost in Salem because it reduces your trash by like 50%. And I'm just wondering if you guys will get involved in those kinds of decisions, because it would be great if you were.
Yeah, I mean, I think,
Oh, go
Yeah.
ahead, Jenna.
yeah, I mean, so engineering has the trash and recycling department function, so they sort of lead that effort. We're always in the recycling committee is amazing about like, where the market's going and trying to adapt where we go. But I do think like, one of the things we're trying to do is do more in the city. So we want to try to work with Bertram to get more recycling as part of their operations. And that's a good educational opportunity because, a lot of young people are there and it's like, encouraging more of that. But I agree with you. Like, how do we get more composting? How do we provide it more? But there's always that cost element. And I know the discussions with trash recycling and composting always come down to the cost. But I think that it's something larger. It's also, you see it like so many of these restaurants and stuff. And, how do you feel like if you could do more of it, you would get a much more cost-effective rate, just like we do with the energy, right? We buy electricity for everybody in the city. So we're able to get a very good rate and actually cheaper for electricity. But, when everybody's kind of trying to do composting on their own, it ends up being not as cost efficient, right? But, but does the city want to take on the cost of composting overall? So I think it is a really important question. But I think it's also like, just like, how do we get it operationalized in almost everything we do, and even in city operations, you'll see the schools, trying to get them to do more composting. Stacy, did you have something?
was just gonna say that at the tabling event, several people who live in Salem kind of have expressed a frustration that the cost of the compost has gone up, or that they kind of find the cost prohibitive, and that's why they don't do it. So again, I mean, I know certain communities have kind of mandated it now, but I don't know if that's the way to go. It's just kind of speaks a lot to what Jenna was saying. It's kind of a complicated issue too,
Yeah.
but it would be nice if we could just provide it to everybody like we did. I mean, I don't know if I would have done it if it hadn't been free those first 2 years, because for some people, even $100 a year or $150 a year is kind of just out of the question. Even if you wanted to do it, but
I wonder though, if when we were looking at our trash costs, if we could, if we mapped out, like if we gave everybody, if we mandated composting and got a deal on composting, could we reduce our trash fees considerably because we would have so much less trash? Like, I don't know if anybody's done that modeling to see like, what could we save on the trash side if we actually had a full composting program?
I think that, as we look to the next contract for trash and recycling, we probably, obviously the market changes and we can do more of that analysis. But I think you're right. It should be investigated more. And I think just the education and I mean, I'm amazed that, basically you're throwing trash that's getting burned. So it's
Right.
incinerated, right? So our larger policies around the incineration and landfill, that's it, landfill or incineration. And I think most of Salem's trash is incinerated.
Exactly.
So, and I think if more people understood that and understood, how the options for composting and things like that, but making it more readily available, more commonplace, things like that, it definitely leads to a lot more education if you're more fully aware, instead of you just throwing everything in one bin and then you don't know where it goes and it's being incinerated, So, but when you compost and when you recycle and, when we used to separate the recycling and stuff like that, you really more fully understand how the life cycle.
Right.
So if I could, because I was part of the city rollout of the compost program, we got a grant for 1,500 homes. And we did an extreme amount of outreach. We were at every event. We went to every neighborhood association, and we never were able to get past 1,200 homes. And, the towns or the communities that mandate composting are very affluent towns. And although I'd like to see everyone compost and appreciate the benefits, I think it's really dangerous or problematic to mandate it in a community like us, where we have so many low income people, so many people with food insecurity. I think this is really, there's a real need to just educate people about why throwing food in the trash is a problem. Because I do believe that as much as we tried, we were not able to reach a significant, portion of the city.
One positive note in terms of costs that we can all pay attention to is that Black Earth has started offering a program. They started it, I think I got notice about it about 3 weeks ago, where you can contract with them to pick up your composting every other week and reduce the costs of composting significantly that way. So that's something to pay attention to. If Black Earth has not contacted you about switching possibly to every other week, and if you're thinking about costs, worried about costs, that might be something you could do. Judith Black also pointed out in the chat that depending on the numbers of people composting in a city, you can actually reduce the cost of the composting. So those are all part of what's going to be in the mix as we think about this. Carol Houghton wrote, Massachusetts is about to lower the threshold weight for food waste from 1 ton a week to a half ton, which will put more of our institutions and businesses under regulation. Do you see that really helping us in our endeavors to advance the cause of composting?
I think those are probably some of the most fundamental. Every time DEP said you can't bring, wood to the landfill or steel, basically it forces the market to adapt. And, as much as people, the market has to respond because now there's a regulation in place. So I think that's anytime, the sort of educational side, but when you're sort of looking at institutions and larger, and they don't do that until they're pretty good about not doing it. They do a lot of analysis and they don't do it until the market's there and that it's not going to be too much onerous. So they don't say, we're going to ban lumber. They didn't do that and wood until they felt like the market was there for alternatives. So, so I think that will be huge. The more pressure, because and that also makes it fair. There's a lot of good companies who want to do the right thing, but then it's like once something becomes everybody has to do it, then it's more fair across the board. And it also leads to more consistency. So if you're a worker at a restaurant, every restaurant that generates a certain amount of waste is doing it the same way. So if a worker moves from restaurant to restaurant, they can carry that training. So
that's really good. Well, we've got just a couple more minutes, and we want to encourage you again to share in the chat, if you will, ideas you have about other safe meetings that you would like to see us. You would like to see us present, and we'll again be with you in December, the first Thursday of December 2nd. We're messing around with our slides here. Sorry about that. Please send us a message in the chat or send us a message to salemsafe@gmail.com about topics you'd like to hear about. One that we'd all like to hear some more about is offshore wind. And we know that the big date for decision-making about the offshore wind procurement bid will be coming December 16th. I was on a Salem Harbor Port Authority meeting before this one, and the city is moving full steam ahead with offshore wind and lining up as best they can what's going to happen at our port. And we thank all of you for the work that you put into assuring that our designated port area would remain a designated port area. And it has, and the wheels are turning now to get offshore wind in the best possible position in Salem in the coming years. So it's going to be a year-long process at least to get things going. But I think if we get a favorable nod to the Commonwealth Wind Project, which is really the Vineyard Wind Project, we'll be seeing some action probably at that site soon. So we thank you all very much for coming tonight. Please find SAFE on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, take a look at our webpage, salemsafe.org, and we'll be seeing you next month on December 2nd. And give us an idea about a topic you'd like to hear about. I have a feeling you're going to be hearing about wind for sure in January, but give us some ideas for December. We're interested in it. So thank you all very much for coming tonight, and we'll be seeing you the first Thursday of every month for the rest of the year. Thank you. And thanks so much to Sustainability and Resiliency Department. We are thrilled that you're a real department. Listening to all these ideas, we know that you can save the city lots of money and you can preserve our planet. So thank you.
All right, thank you.